The Lapiths are a legendary people of Greek mythology, whose home was in Thessaly, in the valley of the Peneus and on the mountain Pelion. They were an Aeolian tribe. Like the Myrmidons and other Thessalian tribes, the Lapiths were pre-Hellenic in their origins. The genealogies make them a kindred people with the Centaurs. In one version, Lapiths and Centaurus were said to be twin sons of the god Apollo and the nymph Stilbe, daughter of the river god Peneus. Lapiths was a valiant warrior, but Centaurus was a deformed being who later mated with mares from whom the race of half-man, half-horse Centaurs then came. Lapiths was the eponymous ancestor of the Lapith people, and his descendants include Lapith warriors and kings, such as Ixion, Piradus Peneus, and Coronis, and the seers Idemon and Mopsus. In the Iliad, the Lapiths send 40-manned ships to join the Greek fleet in the Trojan War, commanded by Polypoetes and Leontius, the mother of Piradus. The Lapith king in the generation before the Trojan War was Dia, daughter of Ionius or Dionysius. Ixion was the father of Piradus, but like many heroic figures, Piradus had an immortal as well as a mortal father. Zeus was his immortal father, but the god had to assume a stallion's form to cover Dia, for, like the half-horse cousins, the Lapiths were horsemen in the grasslands of Thessaly, famous for its horses. The Lapiths were credited with inventing the bridle's bit. In fiction, the Lapith king Piradus was marrying the horsewoman Hippodamia, tamer of horses, at the wedding feast that made a battle. The Centauramachi, famous Centauramachi. The best-known legend with which the Lapiths are connected is the battle with the Centaurs at the wedding feast of Piradus. The Centauramachi. The Centaurs had been invited, but, unused to wine, the wild nature came to the fore. When the bride was presented to greet the guests, the centaur Eurytion leapt up and attempted to rape her. All the other centaurs were up in a moment, straddling women and boys. In the battle that ensued, Theseus came to the Lapiths. They cut off Eurytion's ears and nose and threw him out. In the battle, the Lapith Peneus was killed, and the defeated Centaurs were expelled from Thessaly to the northwest. Peneus was a well-known Lapith, originally a girl named Cenos and the favorite of Poseidon, who changed her into a man at her request and made her an invulnerable warrior. Such warrior women, indistinguishable from men, were familiar among the Scythian horsemen too. In the Centaur battle, Peneus proved invulnerable, until the Centaurs simply crushed him with rocks and trunks of trees. He disappeared into the depths of the earth unharmed and was released as a sandy-headed bird. In later contests, the Centaurs were not so easily beaten. Mythic references explain the presence into historic times of primitive Lapiths in Malea and in the brigand stronghold of Pholoe in Eleusis, remnants of groups driven by the Centaurs. Some historic Greek cities bore names connected with Lapiths, and the Cypselides of Corinth claimed descent from Peneus, while the Phylades of Attica claimed for progenitor Coronis the Lapith. His Greek myth became more mediated through philosophy. The battle between Lapiths and Centaurs took on aspects of the interior struggle between civilized and wild behavior, made concrete in the Lapiths' understanding of the right usage of God-given wine, which must be tempered with water and drunk not to excess. The Greek sculptors of the school of Phidias conceived of the battle of the Lapiths and Centaurs as a struggle between mankind and mischievous monsters, and symbolical of the great conflict between the civilized Greeks and Persian barbarians. Battles between Lapiths and Centaurs were depicted in the sculptured friezes on the Parthenon, recalling Athenian Theseus's treaty of mutual admiration with Piradus the Lapith, leader of the Magnates, and on Zeus's temple at Olympia. The Battle of the Lapiths and Centaurs was a familiar symposium theme for the vase painters. A sonnet vividly evoking the battle by the French poet José María de Heredia was included in his volume Les Trophées. In the Renaissance, the battle became a favorite theme became for artists an excuse to display close-packed bodies in violent confrontation. The young Michelangelo executed a marble bas-relief of the subject in Florence about 1492. Piero di Cosimo's panel Battle of Centaurs and Lapiths, now at the National Gallery, London, was painted during the following decade. If it was originally part of a marriage chest or cassone, it was perhaps an uneasy subject for a festive wedding commemoration. A frieze with a centaur armaci was also painted by Luca Signorelli in his Virgin Enthroned with Saints, inspired by a Roman sarcophagus found at Cortona, in Tuscany, during the early 15th century.